Morning, everybody. It's your boy Al. This past weekend, Pacquiao lost to Ugas, and as it turns out, it was a huge blown opportunity for Errol Spence. Errol Spence, as I said in my previous video about him missing his fight, needs to do some serious looking at his training team, and he needs to hold some people accountable, or he himself needs to be held accountable. Because he lost an opportunity that he'll never get back. Ugas, as all of you know, upset Manny Pacquiao, beat him by unanimous decision. It's pretty easy using basically the tools that Errol Spence has: a good jab, a good straight right hand or left hand in the case of Spence, who's southpaw. And Spence blew an opportunity. There are rumors that he didn't detach his retina, that he was afraid to fight Pacquiao. There are rumors that he was just getting pieced up by his sparring partners, as that's not hard to believe because we've seen Spence fight, and he does not. He is not one who tries to get out of the way of punches. He is a guy who does not mind taking punches, so it's not hard to conceive that he was getting pieced up in sparring. I can say this: he'll never get this opportunity again. Even if, and I've heard some people say, ask should Spence and Pacquiao still fight? It won't have the same drive. It won't have the same suspense. It won't have the same excitement, anticipation, because prior to what was supposed to happen, Spence and Manny Pacquiao was coming off of a huge win over Keith Thurman. He was coming off of a win over an undefeated top 5, in so many cases, pound for pound fighter in the world, and knocked him down and beat him. And so the suspense was, well, if he did that to Thurman, could he do it to Spence? Well, that suspense is gone. That suspense, that excitement, that question, that wonder is gone. Pacquiao, 42 years old, probably should retire. Retire for not just his sake, but the sake of his wife, his family. He's done it all. His legacy is secure. Top 10 to 15 fighter of all time in my book. That does not change with the loss to Ugas. He's 42 years old. And let's be honest. Ugas is no slouch. A lot of people had him beating Sean Porter. I had him beating Sean Porter. So let's not pretend like he lost to some bum. Ugas is even though he doesn't punch very hard, he is a solid fighter, solid skill, solid jab, which the jab is a lost art. Thank goodness that Ugas decided to use his jab, working on Pacquiao. That was the key for him. Floyd showed us in his fight with Manny that Manny could be hit with a jab from a right-hander. Could be hit with, one man when Marquez showed us that he could be hit with straight right from a right-hander. So Ugas put those things together. Overall, now Errol Spence, this puts Errol Spence in a position where he has to go after a big name. He has to go after somebody huge. He has to go after Terrence Crawford, somebody big. Yes, he's fought the Danny Garcias, he's fought Mikey Garcia, he's fought Sean Porter. Yes, but it's time for him and Terrence Crawford to get this thing done. Number one, both of them are getting no younger. That neither one of them are spring chickens. It's not like we're talking about a young Tommy Hearns and young Sugar Ray Leonard at 25 and 22 years old, respectively, in their prime. We're not talking about guys we're talking about guys already in their 30s, who've had limited, and that's the thing about fighters today. These guys in their 30s have had so few fights, limited amount of fights. And I know Americans come up through the amateur system usually don't fight that many fights to begin with as professionals. But these guys have fought a very, very limited amount of fights in their careers. Now, I know that the pandemic must be taken into consideration. That knocked and derailed a lot of people's careers off track. And so we must take that into consideration. But with that being said, Errol Spence has to make a decision. And he may not be the same fighter anymore after the accident. That's to be considered. He may not be the same fighter anymore. He may have been getting touched up because I remember there was a fighter named Stevie Johnston, who was a world beater as a lightweight. Knocked out Sean Bay Mitchell, was undefeated, superstar in the making at lightweight. And had this controversial loss to Jose Luis Castillo, beat the brakes off Castillo in the rematch and was robbed with a draw. Who knows, you know, if he would have been in the mix, how things would have gone at lightweight with Floyd coming into lightweight if he had been given his rightful decision over Jose Luis Castillo. But Stevie Johnston was a fighter's fighter. I mean, he was an awesome fighter, and he had an accident. He was in a bad car accident, and he was never the same. Before the accident, he was a tremendous fighter with a tremendous chin. He couldn't take a punch the same anymore, and his career just kind of went down after the accident. So it's not unprecedented for people to have bad car accidents and not be the same. Of course, the most famous accident, not necessarily a car accident, but plane crash. A fighter who was never the same after, even though he was still a very effective fighter, was, of course, the great Willie Pep, who was 65-0, lost one fight and then went 72-0 after that. Before he had a bad plane crash, broke his back, I think, or both his legs or something in his plane crash. Pretty much never the same guy after that, even though he was still able to win the world title. Defeat Sandy Sadler in a rematch before losing the next couple to Sadler. But maybe that's the case. Maybe Errol Spence is no longer the same fighter because of the accident. We don't know. But one thing needs to be made clear. One thing we do know. Errol's next move has to be a big one. His next move has to be a big one. And we hope that the Terrence Crawford thing, we hope that he feels the pressure from not fighting and backing out of the Pacquiao fight. We hope he feels the pressure to do something big, to go ahead and make the Terrence Crawford and the powers that be feel the pressure to make the Terrence Crawford fight happen, because it has to happen after, not just for the sake of his legacy, but financially. It was a big money fight he blew, and he won't get that back. He won't get that back. Even if he fights Pacquiao, the money won't be the same because that suspense won't be there. So he has to make a decision for his legacy and for his pockets. And I hope that that next decision is Terrence Crawford. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Tell a friend. You want to tell somebody, talk boxing with intelligence. Holla at your boy Al. We'll see you guys next time for another video. Take it easy.